Gojo versus Funny Valentine. These two characters got incredible abilities, and some of these abilities are able to make them impenetrable. Gojo, with his infinity, being able to literally slow down anything that attempts to reach him to a full stop, and Funny Valentine being able to literally direct every attack away from him. What would happen if you put these two characters against each other, and who would win? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Starting off with Gojo. Gojo's limitless is a barrier that separates himself from anyone, with an infinite invisible space that he creates between himself and his opponents by bringing the infinity into reality. Being the neutral form of limitless, the infinity is commonly known as the ability to stop motion. Although this is a common misconception, in reality, the true power of the infinity is to slow things down. When something attempts to hit Satoru, the person or object in question instead hits the infinity between himself and them. According to Satoru, this is the convergence of infinite series and comes straight from the paradox of Achilles and the turtle. Akin to the way Achilles will never catch the turtle due to the potential infinite amount of finite space separating them, or how the real number 1 will never touch the real number 2 due to the infinite amount of fractions that separates them. The opponent will never touch Satoru due to the infinite between them, and while approaching Satoru, the person or object in question will keep having their speed divided into a full stop. Satoru can decide what does and doesn't touch him, and he can do so based upon mass, speed, and danger ratings. This is something that he needed to do manually but can now do automatically. This means that Gojo can keep up with an invisible barrier that slows everything approaching him passively 24/7. Gojo's second ability, Blue, is able to pull enemies or objects closer to him or make him extremely fast. He also uses this frequently to teleport by compressing space and coordinates to place himself practically wherever he wants to, and he uses this a lot versus Sukuna in his fight. He isn't limited to himself with teleportation, as he has brought other people with him a lot, including Yuji. The reason why Gojo is able to keep his ability on 24/7 is because he has a reversal technique. This reversal technique is activated constantly as well, which allows him to refill his brain so he doesn't get overfilled with information from the six eyes. Gojo states that he's got reversal technique running around the clock, so he doesn't need to use hand signs constantly to heal himself. Funny Valentine would be able to counter this space as he's able to cross dimensions as he pleases by putting himself between two objects or the infinity itself, as it's explained to be a space, which is something that D4C constantly crosses and manipulates with his ability to transcend dimensions. When I say transcend dimensions, I'm referring to the fact that he's able to go through them to whatever place he desires, as he frequently travels through dimensions to either replace himself or bring people in to fight for him. Gojo also has a domain. A domain expansion is an advanced technique that allows the user to erect a barrier around themselves and the target and create a completely new space, which is considered to be an initiate domain of the user itself. It's essentially their own little pocket realm or universe, where everything they do have aimbot and it completely nullifies whatever ability is casted at the time being. All defensive abilities are nullified, and we know this because Gojo says so while fighting Jojo. Jojo states that inside of the domain, even the infinity has to be nullified, in which Gojo agrees. Gojo's unlimited void allows him to pour boundless raw information into his target's mind, overwhelming them to the point where they're completely immobilized. With only being inside of the domain for 0.2 seconds is enough to completely knock non-sorcerers out, and a couple of seconds is enough to give them brain damage. Theoretically, if Gojo did put Funny Valentine in the domain, he should logically be able to win the fight right then and there. That's assuming that Funny Valentine doesn't leave the domain itself, because space shouldn't be a restriction for Funny Valentine and D4C. Now that I'm done talking about his abilities, I'm gonna get into his strength. Gojo is stronger than characters such as Jogo and Dagon, who are able to create and throw meteors big enough to completely affect cities. They're able to knock down massive skyscrapers, and Jogo was seen in the anime to be able to literally grab two skyscrapers and crush them with ease. Dagon, however, with his domain, is visually shown to create an entire island that contains mountains inside of them. So it wouldn't be far-fetched to assume that Gojo should be in the ranges of mountain and island level of strength, since he's relative to characters such as Sukuna, who is able to affect the universe with his slashes by cutting space itself. Gojo is also incredibly fast, being leagues above Maki and Naoya, who are able to operate at the speeds of Mach 3. But Akari, while fighting Kashimo, is able to evade lightning bolts, which are calculated to be at least 500 times the speed of sound. Before I wrap up the Gojo part, I do want to bring up his hollow purple. The hollow purple is the combination of blue and red, resulting in the color purple. It is described as an imaginary mass and is treated like a ball that disintegrates whatever it touches, similar to the destruction seen in Dragon Ball Super. With the maximum version of the hollow purple, he can increase the strength and size of it. While fighting Sukuna, he summoned a massive hollow purple that disintegrated an entire city block. That pretty much wraps up everything I need on Gojo's section. D4C has the ability to travel through dimensions by putting himself between two objects. The objects can be literally whatever it's liquid or even shoes. As long as he puts himself between those two, he can cross the current dimensions to another. Funny Valentine doesn't have any healing abilities, but what he does have is essentially a reboot button. Every time he's severely hurt, he can replace himself with an alternative version to come back and fight fully healed. They all fight and think the exact same way, and since there are an infinite amount of alternative worlds, he has infinite retries as long as he's not instantly killed. With the same version of D4C, he can trap people in alternative dimensions or just half their bodies. If D4C puts Gojo between a piece of a shirt in the floor or even a Funny Valentine, he could cut him in half if necessary. That is, if he doesn't just shoot him with a super soaker and BFRs him to some alternative dimension. Funny Valentine frequently does BFR people, as we can see with Hot Pants and Dio, and even the train conductor, so this wouldn't be outside of his character. He doesn't need to replace himself, but rather can summon an army of Funny Valentines to fight with him as well. But this isn't limited to Funny Valentine, as he's able to summon people to fight for him. He was able to summon Dio, who has to stand the world, which can stomp time and fight for him as well. Theoretically, if Funny Valentine was fighting in Jujutsu Kaisen, he could summon it like an alternative version of Gojo, Gero, or even Sukuna to come and fight for him. D4C's Lovetrain is the evolution of D4C, which allows him to have his own little version of the Infinity that functions as a repeller for anything that attempts to harm him. With D4C Lovetrain, anything around him that is considered misfortune within a specific range will be sucked in, destroyed, or even transported to a completely different dimension. Whatever it's grass, trees, or even the water itself gets transported away from him if it's considered as something that would harm him. As long as Funny Valentine remains inside of the barrier, he simply cannot be killed, since the dimensional wall itself will keep him protected and even send projectiles to a distant dimension and harm someone else as long as it's far away from him. Funny Valentine doesn't really have any strength feats, as his stand is more of an ability type. If he does come close to Gojo, he could realistically be a farm. That's assuming that he's fast enough to actually do it. I wouldn't say that Funny Valentine has any speed feats either, as he frequently gets shot and beat up by Dio, who's stated to be faster. Dio's only speed feat being able to dodge bullets, of course. Funny Valentine wouldn't be hit by any of Gojo's abilities as long as he remains inside of the dimensional wall, which frequently repels projectiles. That's pretty much it, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and join the Discord in the bio. And peace.